Aura is a four-letter word that I'm pretty sure almost everyone who was watching this video has heard lately in 2024. In 2024, that word has been thrown around so loosely that we see a lot of people telling the world that some people have aura, even though in reality, those same people do not have aura. But aura is also a four-letter word that is needed to make me care for a character. Now, obviously, the story, the character's motivations, the character's environment, those are all important as well to make me feel for a character, to make me care about a character, is the emotional story depth that any media, whether it's a game, TV show, or a movie, has. But in my honest opinion, and this just only relates to me, aura is another of those components that make me really feel for a character, and that really makes me like a new character that I haven't seen. And the character I'm talking about is Shadow, because I'll be completely honest with you guys that are watching this right now, I did not watch the first two Sonic the Hedgehog movies. So when I watched the third movie today, I came in blindly. I came in blindfolded and my hands are tied behind my back because I don't really know what's going on in this particular universe of the Paramount Sonic universe. But the main reason why I went to watch this movie is because of one person alone, and that is Shadow. Because throughout the trailers, as I was seeing Shadow single-handedly destroying the whole of Team Sonic, I thought to myself, this nigga has aura. This nigga has the aura that I've been waiting for in 2024, and this is going to make me watch this movie. And the question that I had for myself is, will Shadow's aura actually live up to the expectations that I put Shadow as a character to have? And I am thankfully excited to say that yes, that has happened. Shadow's aura in this movie is crazy. Shadow, he is, in my honest opinion, my favorite part of this movie. But that's not to say that there were no other favorite parts in this movie, because I'm not even gonna lie to you, this movie was crazy, it was funny, and it's a very good movie. And many of the characters like Tails, Knuckles, Sonic, Tom, Gerald, and Dr. Robotnik, all of their performances really made me latch onto this movie. I was literally at the edge of my seat watching a lot of their sequences, a lot of their action scenes, and a lot of their funny and heartfelt moments as well. But enough of me rambling, I'm gonna tell you exactly what happened in this movie that made me really like Shadow's character, because Shadow was a badass in this movie. Shadow was literally a one-man wrecking crew, and obviously we should not be surprised why Shadow's performance and Shadow's character was badass, because remember, Keanu Reeves, the badass himself, the John Wick himself, is playing Shadow in this movie. This movie, it has a lot of ambitions clashing with each other. Shadow's ambitions, Dr. and Gerald Robotnik's ambitions, and Sonic's ambitions, and even the company Gun's ambitions, because all of their motives and all of the reasons why they do things in this movie will all clash with each other. And I really like that, because we see that in the beginning of the movie 50 years ago, we see a scene of Shadow. He is being held in the lab chambers of the gun company, because 50 years ago there was a mysterious meteorite that came from space. Because remember, the hedgehogs like Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, and Sonic, they are all aliens. So this meteorite was an alien meteorite that crash landed onto Earth, and then the entire government that was with the gun company, they now took Shadow in, and they were running labs and experiments on Shadow. And we now see that something happened 50 years later in the current time in the mechanics of the gun company that caused Shadow to be released, and we now see Shadow do his first badass scene. Shadow literally had aura the second he walked out of that test tube, because he started to dismantle and defeat every single soldier and guard that was in his way. And when I saw that, I was like, yep, this nigga Shadow, he is him, in my honest opinion. So we now see Shadow eventually run away. But when Shadow runs away, the gun company, is actually looking for Shadow, and the question of who freed Shadow will soon be answered, because we will know exactly who freed Shadow. And Shadow's time in the gun company being a lab rat is so heartbreaking in my honest opinion. But let me not spoil it too early, because we have to talk about the main character himself, and that is Sonic. And we see what Sonic is doing simultaneously at this time. He's hanging out with Tom, he's hanging out with Maddie, he's hanging out with Tails and Knuckles, and they are about to have this race. And when they're having this race, you know, Sonic, the cocky dude that he is, he's just basically saying, you guys need to keep up, you guys need to keep up. But Tails eventually keeps up with Sonic, but Sonic now goes into hyperspeed. He now really cuts loose and starts to go really fast. But then Sonic now sees that, wait, everybody that was with him is gone, Tails is gone, and Knuckles is gone. But what actually happened is that there were holograms, because they tricked Sonic into stumbling upon his happy Earth Day. And basically it's kind of his birthday, but not really, because it's his Earth Day is the exact date that he landed on Earth. So they're basically trying to celebrate that with Sonic, and this was a good scene. And we're starting to see that they're visited by members of the Gun Corporation. Specifically, Director Rockwell comes down from the helicopter to basically tell Sonic and the team that something has happened, something crazy has happened, that we all know this is Gun Corporation's fault, but they need Sonic's help to actually contain this situation. So when Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles eventually leave with the Gun Corporation, leaving Maddie and Tom alone, they now reach to the location where they're needed. And man, this first fight scene that we saw in the trailers, I'm not even gonna lie, Shadow was a demon in this fight scene, man. Because Knuckles, at first, he thought that he was so strong. He tried to punch Shadow. Shadow basically, he cracked his knuckles. I'm not even gonna lie, he cracked his knuckles. We're just seeing that Shadow, he is too overpowered for all three of them. Shadow, he is too strong for all three of them to even catch, to even comprehend. And Shadow, he is just beating all of their asses, in my honest opinion. Then we now see Sonic try to keep up with Shadow, but Shadow is beating him up. He is just destroying him. But this is where the ambitions part that I was talking about earlier in the video comes into play, because we see in this movie a lot of characters have a lot of ambitions and motives that will clash with each other. Because after the fight with Shadow, he now runs away. So after that, Sonic and the team are now tasked to find Shadow, and they are also tasked to find Shadow. So they now meet with Commander Walters, and the place that they met Commander Walters was at this kid's playpen in Tokyo, Japan, somewhere around that location. And as they were discussing on what the possibilities they can do, they were interrupted with some tech that you would think would be Dr. Robotnik's, but the thing is, Dr. Robotnik's is dead. So it seems that somebody is stealing and using his tech. So when that happens, we now see Agent Stone, who is riding this motorcycle, and Agent Stone, he comes into the action and he's trying to help Sonic and the team to fend off these robots that were stolen from Dr. Robotnik's. But then as the chase scene is going on, Sonic, he's basically not trying to do another chase scene with a motorcycle. So this scene now ends at the docks, and when all the robots are destroyed, Agent Stone basically asks Sonic and the team for help, because he is informing them that someone stole Dr. Robotnik's plans, someone stole Dr. Robotnik's machines and equipment. And Sonic and the team are basically confused, because they thought that Dr. Robotnik died, but Agent Stone will soon reveal to them verbally and physically that Dr. Robotnik has survived his death from the previous movie. So they now venture on into Dr. Robotnik's secret lab where he faked his death. But we now see Dr. Robotnik, he's looking disgusting, he is looking disheveled, he has not shaved in a long while, he is just looking like a nasty basement dweller. So when they now stumble upon Dr. Robotnik, man, Jim Carrey was so funny as fuck as Dr. Robotnik in this movie. But Dr. Robotnik, he reluctantly now agrees to help out Team Sonic to find out who has been stealing his equipment, because at first he declined the offer until Agent Stone showed Dr. Robotnik real proof that his tech has been stolen. So this causes Dr. Robotnik to shave all of his hair, to trim his mustache, and to don the iconic look that Dr. Robotnik has been looking since the past 2 movies of this franchise. So as this is going on, this is where the ambitions part comes into play, because we catch up with Shadow, and Shadow, he reaches this location. Then this location is this destroyed facility that seems to be a destroyed gun corporation facility. So we now see another flashback, and we see that Shadow, when he was doing all of those lab tests and he was basically being treated as a lab rat by the scientists that found him, we see, in my honest opinion, a heartbreaking and a heartwarming scene, because we see Shadow is introduced to this kid, and this kid, her name is Maria, but we will soon to know that this kid is actually Maria Robotnik. But let me not say that just yet, because Maria, she meets Shadow when Shadow was inside one of these test tubes, and since Maria, she's a kid, she's basically just so interested with this creature that she is seeing. So she is being nice to this creature. Maria has a great personality, and Shadow at first doesn't really want to do things with Maria, but as he is seeing Maria is showing actual and authentic generosity to Shadow, and she just being so nice to Shadow, they now eventually start to bond, and they now eventually start to become friends. But we're seeing that this is Shadow's actual first friend, because since his time on Earth, everyone has been treating him as a dirty alien. They have been just treating him as an object, treating him as he's nothing, just using him without any care and any consideration of how Shadow feels, because even though, yes, he is an alien and he has this power that the gun corporation are exploiting, they're trying to use Shadow's power to basically see if they can gain new energy, see if their corporation can get stronger. So I really like that dynamic that this movie really put into place. But we now see that all characters are coincidentally going to the same location, because that same location where Shadow is at, Dr. Robotnik and Agent Stone, they actually tracked down the coordinates. They hacked into some of the stolen tech that they recovered, so that Team Sonic, Agent Stone, and Dr. Robotnik are all going to the same location that Shadow is coincidentally at. But we now see Shadow, he is greeted by someone that his face is covered, but this someone is actually Gerald Robotnik, Dr. Robotnik's granddad. So when all parties go into the same location, we now see all of them meet each other again, and we see that Shadow, he is basically taking out the members of Team Sonic. Then Dr. Robotnik was by himself with Sonic, but something happened that caused them to separate. Then we now see Dr. Robotnik meet Gerald Robotnik, and seeing Jim Carrey play 2 characters at the same time is at first a jarring scene to see, but man, when you see how he interacts with himself, the chemistry is off the charts, and every time they're on screen with each other, it's so funny. And I really like how they made them look near identical. They made them look like twins, even though we obviously see that Gerald Robotnik, he has wrinkles, he's looking like an actual granddad. But Gerald now actually tells Dr. Robotnik that he was in that same prison that was actually under the gun corporation, and 50 years ago something happened that caused him to do time. But we see that Gerald Robotnik, his actual motivation is that when he was in prison, he proposed to the guards that, look, I can build you this great experiment, I can build you this great mechanism that can actually be very beneficial to you if you can release me. So then that request was granted. So we see that Gerald Robotnik, he got his freedom from that, but this whole time he's been staying in this location. So when he now tells all of this to Dr. Robotnik, he is so ecstatic with glee, because for the first time he is seeing his family. He thought that his bloodline ended with him. He thought that he would never see someone who can actually care for him, or who can actually sympathize with him, if you know what I mean by saying that. So Gerald and Dr. Robotnik work with each other to trap Team Sonic, and Dr. Robotnik yet again betrays Sonic, and he's trying to kill Sonic because the plan is to chain up Team Sonic and create this black hole that Shadow had, and Shadow threw this black hole at Team Sonic, causing Team Sonic to almost die. But this didn't happen, of course, because they escaped. They narrowly escaped with their lives, but this lab, this entire facility has been completely destroyed. Then we now actually reach back with Tom and Maddie, and Tom and Maddie are just trying to have some nice quality peace for the first time in over 3 to 4 years. But this peace is easily and instantly interrupted because Sonic and the team now come basically through the ring portal, and they now ask Tom and Maddie for help because they need help infiltrating the gun corporation in London. They need help to go in there to stop the big great mechanism that Gerald Robotnik built for that corporation in London. So as they told Tom and Maddie instantly accepted, and they not instantly agreed. So now their roles in this whole plan is that they will be spies, basically infiltrating the gun corporation with high tech that can actually camouflage their look and basically create a hologram that can steal somebody else's identity. So as that plan is forming, like I said, the whole part of the ambitions and motivations that I said earlier in the video, this is another example, because we see the ambition and motivation of Gerald and Dr. Robotnik, because Gerald, he is actually trying to trick Dr. Robotnik. He is trying to basically manipulate Dr. Robotnik with giving him gifts, with basically giving him a bond that Dr. Robotnik has been looking for and has been fiending for. So we see a funny scene, in my honest opinion, where they're having this bond time as they wait to go to London to the location, and when they are bonding, they are using this VR goggles. And it was a funny scene because we see that Agent Stone, he's being left out, and I was like, damn, that's crazy, you know, because Agent Stone, he is actually Dr. Robotnik's friend, but Dr. Robotnik did not see that just yet. But as both parties are going to the same location, we now see Shadow, and Shadow, he at first he's trying to be reluctant in working with Dr. Robotnik, but something he told to Agent Stone is that once they're done, there will be nothing left. And this sat with Agent Stone for such a long time that Agent Stone will later try to warn Dr. Robotnik. But before that happened, both parties reach the location, and Sonic and the team have a plan that Tom and Maddie will infiltrate the inside by putting a chip into the location where they need to put the chip. And it actually worked. The chip went inside, and it actually helped Tails to hack into the system. We see simultaneously that Dr. Robotnik and Gerald Robotnik are inside as well, and there are these lasers that if Sonic would have ran inside these lasers, he would have been dead. But Dr. Robotnik created this suit that can actually be resistant to these lasers and basically be impenetrable and indestructible. But there's a funny scene that happened in this laser scene, and Dr. and Gerald Robotnik basically had a dance off, and I'm not even gonna lie, man, me and the movie theater, we laughed when this scene happened. It was so funny. And Jim Carrey, he is always known for being such a funny character in all of the roles that he plays, so I'm not surprised that I had a good time watching him do his performance in this movie. But we now see all parties meet again. They come into the same location again when they go into this gravity room, and Sonic, he is there first because he did not listen to Tails and Knuckles by staying behind. So Sonic, he was the first one to come inside and to confront Dr. and Gerald Robotnik. But when this happened, the gravity chambers got activated because Director Rockwell, she actually turned on the gravity controls to basically trap them there so that she could kill two birds with one stone. She could arrest both Dr. and Gerald Robotnik, and she could actually betray Sonic and the team, because Sonic and the team, even though at first they were working with Director Rockwell, the information that they gathered caused them to not trust Director Rockwell and the gun corporation again. But as this happened, a lot of things happened, I'm not even gonna lie, in this scene that caused the gravity chambers to basically malfunction, and every single person that came, Tom and Maddie and even the guards and the soldiers that were alongside Director Rockwell, all basically got stuck in the room. But as this is happening, the debris was destroying the entire room, causing almost everyone in the room to die. But Sonic used his power to save Tom and Maddie. But as this happened simultaneously, Director Rockwell was the one that snatched the keychain. She snatched the card that they were actually trying to retrieve. But Director Rockwell almost escaped with her own plan that, in my honest opinion, wasn't followed up on. It was kind of a little plot hole what her plan was. But we see Tom using the hologram impersonator. He now actually impersonates Commander Walters, and Commander Walters is believed to be dead, but she is shocked seeing that Commander Walters is actually okay, and Commander Walters is demanding that same card that Director Rockwell basically took. But obviously it was not Commander Walters, it was Tom. But this is where the motivations return, and this is where the aura returns. Two key points I have in this video: motivations and aura. So first thing first, I'm gonna go with the motivations, and that is when Shadow, he comes to see Tom impersonating Commander Walters. We know that Commander Walters was the one that put Shadow in that prison for 50 years. Commander Walters was the one that basically destroyed Shadow's life, and when Shadow sees that, he now punches Commander Walters, aka Tom, so hard that caused Tom to nearly die. And this is where the aura now comes, because every scene Shadow is in, I'm sorry, he is just emanating aura, in my honest opinion. Everything he does is just him, in my honest opinion. He is him. But as this happened, we see Sonic now comes to see what happened. Sonic is thinking, whoa, Tom is dead, and Shadow was the one that killed Tom. So Sonic now goes on a vengeance arc, and it's so coincidental that Shadow as well is having his own vengeance arc. So the motivations in this movie are strong. So when this happened, Shadow and the Robotniks now basically flee. They got what they wanted. They got the chip that is needed to start the process. And I forgot what the mechanism was called, but basically it's this mechanism that is inside the lab, that when they now go inside the place, the entire mechanism basically flies Dr. Gerald and Agent Stone to space. And when they go into space, they basically announce that they are trying to destroy the entire world. But the thing is, this was what Agent Stone was trying to tell Dr. Robotnik, that Gerald Robotnik's plan is not what we think. He is trying to do something crazy. We have to stop him. But Dr. Robotnik, he betrays Agent Stone because he is so torn. He's seeing that his granddad, his grandfather, he is basically embracing him. So he chooses to go on the side of his granddad, of his family, instead of his friends, someone that he knew would have his back. But even though his granddad is his family, that doesn't prove that your family will always have your back. And that is what we will later see in the movie. But going back to Sonic and the team, we see Sonic, he is so enraged. He thinks that Tom is dead. So he is trying to go, and I forgot what the gem is called, but this gem basically helps Sonic to turn Super Saiyan. So Sonic is so mad. But the thing is, Knuckles is the only person that actually is the gatekeeper and the guardian of this gem. So they almost fight each other. They almost throw hands in front of Tails. But Knuckles eventually actually succumbs to Sonic's demands, and he now tells Sonic where to find the gem. So Sonic finds the gem, and he now turns Super Saiyan. He flies straight to the mechanism in space that Shadow and Dr. and Gerald Robotnik are at. And man, when this fight scene happened with Sonic and Shadow, man, I was at the edge of my seats, man. I almost tore my shirt off. I almost tore my hair off because this fight scene was crazy. I'm not even gonna lie to you. you, bro, the animators in this movie that animated these last fight scenes, they were cooking, in my honest opinion, because this fight scene was crazy. Shadow and Sonic were fighting from Earth to space to the moon, and at first Shadow was so overpowered that he did not feel any little damage that Sonic was trying to inflict until Shadow tried to taunt Sonic, saying, who was that guy's name again? Was it Tom? So this caused Sonic to just be enraged, and Sonic was beating the shit out of Shadow. He was beating him from Earth all the way to space, all the way to the moon. And when Sonic was about to land the last blow on Shadow, this scene got to me because Shadow wanted Sonic to kill him, but Sonic was about to, until he remembered something Tom said earlier in the movie, that vengeance is not good, that you have to be good in your pure heart. So when that happened, Sonic, he now did not want to kill Shadow anymore, and Shadow asked why. So when Sonic told Shadow that vengeance is basically not the answer to your problems, vengeance will make things worse, we see that actually destroy Shadow's real plans, because remember, Shadow's motivations in this movie is vengeance on the people that wronged him. Then I forgot to even add that a flashback that goes back in time, we see another flashback with the lore of what happened to Maria. And what happened to Maria was that the entire soldiers at the gun company were trying to kill all three of them. And by me saying three, I'm saying Shadow, Maria, and Gerald Robotnik. And it's revealed that Gerald Robotnik is related to Maria. So they were trying to kill all three because Maria wanted to basically free Shadow from captivity. But when this happened, the soldiers now shoot something that was right next to them that causes the entire place to explode. And this explosion was something that the gun corporation, they framed Shadow for doing, so that they now locked up Shadow for 50 years. So we see that the gun corporation, they are the sole cause of this entire thing. And it seems that at first, Gerald Robotnik, he was not evil. He was not this evil person that we're seeing now, because we see that his motivations for destroying the gun corporation is justified because they are the reasons why his relative Maria is dead. So I was like, damn, I didn't think this movie would be that deep, in my honest opinion. I was shocked at how deep with this movie, because their motivations were pretty intense. So when this happened, we see that Sonic and Shadow, they now are trying to work together to stop Gerald Robotnik. But Gerald Robotnik, he now betrays Dr. Robotnik, because Dr. Robotnik was trying to plead with Gerald to stop this because he's going too far. Man, this last fight scene was very good. It was very well done, and it was funny as fuck, because we see the fight scene with Gerald and Dr. Robotnik, and they were just so unserious trying to fight each other. They were so unserious, and it was so funny seeing Jim Carrey fight himself basically. But we see that Sonic and Shadow are working together to destroy the robots that Gerald Robotnik sent out to kill them, and it was easy work. It was light work. They didn't really put any effort into destroying these robots. But we see that Gerald almost killed Dr. Robotnik, but that didn't work because Tails saved Dr. Robotnik, and Dr. Robotnik used something to basically put up Gerald Robotnik's ass, and it caused Gerald to basically die. But the movie ends with Sonic and the whole entire team and Shadow saving the day, and we see two deaths. We see Shadow and Dr. Robotnik sacrifice themselves to save the world, because the beam that was about to destroy the entire Earth, they somehow moved the beam, and they basically caused the beam's direction to be corrected at a different location. But the explosion was too much, and it basically killed Shadow and Dr. Robotnik. And man, this movie, I did not think that this movie would make me do this long ass video, but this movie was so good that I had to basically try to tell you guys exactly what I'm talking about. When this movie, they use aura and they use motivations to an extent that is so good that made me at the edge of my seat the entire movie, man. Shadow's aura and his motivations, in my honest opinion, were the peak of this movie, and all of the other characters, in my honest opinion, are very entertaining, man. So I do think that everyone should go see this movie. Everyone should go support this movie, man. That's the end of it. I'm out. Peace.